Hi, this is Fred Schultz. As you know, I'm running for president, but this is my concession speech. Um, we have lost. I know that not one vote has been cast yet, but we are not even registering in the polls. I mean, if we were 5 points behind, 10 points behind, then and I didn't believe that those polls were right, that kind of thing. Uh, then I believe, I wouldn't be conceding. Although I do believe that if everybody in the country heard our platform, my platform, our platform, that we would win in 2 seconds. I know that. The problem is we haven't been able to get the word out. I mean, first of all, yes, I support Hillary over Donald just because, yes, she still supports mass incarceration, mass arrests, lessening mass incarceration, but still mass arrests. She believes that the government has a right to arrest us for victimless crimes. She intends to continue doing so. She intends to continue these overseas wars. She will not tax the 1% nearly enough, and she will continue to tax everybody else way more than is we can handle. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has a good chance of getting us all killed. I mean, look at it this way. Hillary will arrest, say, 10, 12, 13, 14 million people wrongfully a year. Donald would just double or triple that. I mean, Hillary would get, say, lead to the deaths of, say, 1 million people if she continues these wars, and she says she will. I mean, our involvement in them. It's not that we can affect every outcome in the world, but Donald says that he, will, quote, bomb the shit out of them, meaning ISIS, but beyond that, he wants to send, he said, at least 30,000 ground troops in to Iraq again. I mean, both of these people supported the war in Afghanistan. Both of them supported the war in Iraq. I didn't. Look, it's not of any benefit to go over the past. Donald Trump is a raving lunatic, and Hillary is just the same old, totalitarianism with a smile that we've had for the last 50 years in this country. I mean, since Nixon. Although he didn't smile. They've learned from his error. I mean, look, Bill Clinton, with a big smile, presided over the largest increase in people in our jails. Hillary was by his side smiling, smiling when they pushed through this 94 crime bill to greatly increase mass arrests for victimless crimes. And Hillary's, look, let me just give you some basic facts. Yes, yes, we have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prison population, meaning that we arrest people at a rate 5 times the rate of the rest of the world. But that's not the whole story at all. I mean, that we have 2.2 million people in jail, maybe 2.25 million. And according to my guess, 2 million of them are wrongfully in jail for victimless crimes. On top of that, even those in for real crimes, many of them are in for way too long. On the other hand, many others are in for way too short because we are focusing so much on victimless crimes. And then on the other hand, if you had 3 hands, you have about 500,000 untested rape kits, not to mention other crimes that go unsolved. I mean, I'm not sure the percentage of murders that go unsolved. It's at least a third. Kidnapping, it's probably around the same. Look, my point is the only way to excel as a world and as a nation is, and certainly as a nation, is to stop these mass arrests for victimless crimes. In Hillary's big speech at Columbia she gave, which I just re-listened to, she said, quote, "Of course these people have to be registered in our criminal justice system," unquote. These people being those of us who use drugs, illegal drugs, let me add. I mean, mind you, the main effect of this law, well, there's been a few effects. Number one, it has greatly increased crime, because when you increase prices and you also have poverty and you are not addressing that poverty properly, then you have crime. And the problem is we have been addressing attacking people for victimless crime so much that we have not had any money to do anything else. The only part of the budget that's been soaring has been the jail budget. But it's not just that. It's that, obviously, as I said, it increases crime, but it also increases addiction, because making these laws against drugs, increases the concentrations of those drugs that are out there. It also leads to a lot of use of synthetic drugs or legal drugs, which are in most cases more dangerous. Of course, also then you have the problem of not even knowing what you're taking. And of course having to deal with criminals to get it. And, you don't know what you're getting, you don't know the concentration. But on top of that, you're just simply, number one, you're redirecting a huge amount of our workforce into police and lawyers and courts who could be doing, productive work, or focusing on crimes with victims, or even not focusing on, once we've addressed all the crimes with victims, we really need to repurpose the police to protecting us from terrorists. I mean, Hillary talked against giving the police war weapons. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, they need war weapons and they need war armor, but they just need to not use it against people who are, innocent, meaning those of us who break victimless crimes. I mean, there is such a thing called police discretion, too. And on top of course, it shouldn't be used for peaceful protests like they're using it right now with that pipeline thing. I mean, look, what can I say? Right now, it's... Oh, and then, of course, also you have all these mass arrests, which mean that our economy is damaged, because you have about 75 million people with convictions. That's about 1/3 of the adult population. They can, Hillary thinks that we can keep these mass arrests going and yet then free them, and then, of course, as she puts it, only rearrest them if they, quote, reoffend. Meaning what? Like smoke weed again? Smoke some crack again? I mean, look, I am not saying these things, well, weed is often healthy, crack is usually not. It's not about that we should only have things legal that are healthy. I mean, sugar. You know how many people a year, all illegal drugs combined, kill worldwide? Probably don't. 200,000. You know how many people worldwide sugar kills? At least 36 million. Sugar is responsible for at least about 2/3 of the deaths worldwide annually. Through cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity. I mean, we could go on and on and on. This is a misguided, this war on drugs is a misguided application of religious morals to free people. And I can't even explain how misguided this is. So if you're asking how I feel voting for Hillary, if I'm doing this all happy, I mean, look, she does not understand that the government has no right to attack us, to arrest us, to steal our homes, to steal our children, to steal our families, steal our freedom, to steal our ability to ever get a job again, unless we are hurting someone else. And even then, this whole concept of permanent records should really be re-examined in most cases. Look, if I had been soaring in the polls, which, didn't happen, but I mean, look, Trump talks about a rigged system. Yeah, it's rigged, but not in the way he thinks. It's rigged in the fact that, like, somebody like him is only famous for being born wealthy. And if he had even just taken the money he was born with and invested it in either a real estate average real estate returns or an average stock market returns, he would have done far better than what he did. Overall, multiples better. And then when you add in all the debt he accrued and all the people he screwed, multiples more. He would have, like, say, $100 billion or something like that, instead of like maybe a few $100 million, which we don't even know. He's no mensch. He's never donated to charity in his life. He doesn't pay taxes. If you're not going to pay taxes, that's one thing, but it's only okay if it's because, like, you want to prevent, mass incarceration and mass war. But then if you're going to be playing that game, you at least have to donate, much more than the average person, to helping people, mostly through food and housing. He's in the housing business. He could have donated thousands of free units a year. The fact he didn't says it all. He's insulted Mexicans and people from South America, who are just really South and Central America, running for their lives from our drug war. Obviously this drug war greatly increases crime in our nation, in our cities, in our rural neighborhoods, but also, south of our border, it's causing these mass slaughters and mass poverty. This is, it's a setup. When you have mass poverty, and then instead of addressing it by, say, creating jobs, and if you don't create enough jobs, giving out a free guaranteed minimal income, that kind of thing. Instead of addressing it, you simply start arresting everybody and doing it for drugs, so that therefore you increase the value of the drugs, and then therefore the only way to make a living in many of these neighborhoods is by selling these drugs. It's a setup. It's a setup. But anyway, when he goes on about, Mexicans and their rapists and their murderers, no, Mexico is sending their best. I know many of these people. I know the people who work here as gardeners. I know the people who work for my dad as his medical assistants and secretaries. These are people who moved here legally. Many times by working in the farms for years on end until, they could become legal, and then they had children who now work for my dad. But look, he's disgusting. I proposed a wall long before he did, but the idea was not to just lock everyone out. It was that you end the drug war, end prohibition, and then therefore you end the slaughter, and then to have a wall, but then we should even let in more than we're currently taking, but simply legally, and of course let everybody here stay. So that's as opposed to his idea, which is this big deportation force going door to door, kicking down doors. We have to know who's entering. I believe we should have walls on both borders, and strong port entry too. But we need to know who's entering, because we don't want a terrorist to enter. On the other hand, we don't want to continue these overseas wars. That's another way that you create terrorists, whether we like it or not, is by fighting overseas. Then you have psychotic people who decide to kill us here. The best way to prevent that is stop fighting overseas. It's simple. I'm not saying it'll solve everything, just 3/4, 9/10, 95%, 98%. That's what we're shooting for. Well, we're shooting for 100, but if we get 99, that's 99% less terrorist murders than we have today. And let's be honest about this. Look, ISIS, yeah, they're horrible people. But their neighbors are out to get them now. Their neighbors are well organized now, and their neighbors are going to get them. We don't have to be involved with that, and we shouldn't be involved with that. And honestly, after their neighbors take them out, then there could be a civil war between their neighbors. And God forbid. But we don't want to be involved with any of this. We need our troops home to protect us here. Home, 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 home. Now you could be saying, well, what about Jill? What about Gary? Yeah, Jill wants to bring the troops home, and Gary does too. On the other hand, when Gary was asked about ISIS on CNN Town Hall, he said, well, we don't want to attack anyone unless they've attacked us. And he said, and then in the next sentence, he said, and arguably ISIS has attacked us. So he very well might want to continue this war with ISIS. And then and both of them have only called for the federal legalization of marijuana. On the other hand, neither of them believes that victimless crimes are illegal. I mean, Gary certainly doesn't, and he had a chance to pardon millions, thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people. He was governor for victimless crimes, and he didn't. Jill has said that she supports only legalization of marijuana and leaving all other drugs up to a panel of doctors to only legalize what is safe. Look, the only ones who can look out for ourselves is ourselves. Having government try to do it is a misguided effort that will only lead to tragedy. That's the only way I can put this. And totalitarianism. I mean, when you combine mass surveillance, which they have. By the way, most of the mass surveillance is done in the name of the drug war. So once we end the drug war, then we can end the mass surveillance overnight. But when you combine mass surveillance with, how do we put it? Crimes that make crime laws that make a majority of Americans criminals on the books if they were ever caught. And then you combine that with mass surveillance, so you combine the actual possibility of being caught. Then you have a whole population living in constant fear of arrest from a totalitarian government, and not just constant fear, but a constant risk of arrest. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right, and it has to end now. Look, I wish that I were still in this race, but I'm losing. Trump talks about a rigged system. Yeah, I didn't get any publicity, and he did because he was famous for being rich and yelling and fake firing people. Fake firing out of work actors. I mean, it's pretending he has a lot of money when he's living on, loans. I mean, it's all screaming he's about law and order, screaming for the death penalty for innocent kids who are accused of rape and forced into false confessions through coercive interrogation. I mean, he wants stop and frisk to be enhanced again. Well, what that means is stopping and frisking hundreds of thousands of Americans. In Baltimore, they found that hundreds of thousands, I think it was 300,000, mostly darker-skinned people had been stopped from frisk, and I think it was 96% of them had been found to be innocent of anything, and even those who were found guilty of carrying drugs, and many times it was planted. I mean, it's just, and all they were. Enough. If we are not hurting anyone, the government doesn't have a right to interfere. I mean, think of it in terms of, like, if you're sitting in your house, does your neighbor have a right to come over? Does a bunch of your neighbors who don't like what you do in your house have a right to come over and steal your house and steal your children and give them to other parents, other people, steal your children, steal your house, and steal your all the money you've saved up and lock you up for years just because they don't like that you sit around smoking something all day long? Does that sound reasonable? No. But when they use the word government, it does? Okay, look, this is insane. I've had enough of this. We've lost for now. We will turn around and win this in 4 years. That's all I can say. Hopefully as a love party. Maybe we'll take over the Democrats or the Republicans, but probably by starting a new party. Either way, we're going to win this. I love you all. Just have to stick it out 4 more years now. It's easy for me to say I'm not in jail. All right, I love you all. I'll do my best to free you until then. Love you all. Thank you. Please go out and vote. It's a matter of life and death. It's a matter of whether, we have tens of millions more in jail. It's a matter of whether we have hundreds of millions more arrests in our nation. It's a matter of whether we have, 1 billion people dying, 2 billion, 3 billion. He could get the whole world killed. I mean, this is a mentally evil and unstable and narcissistic and needy and cruel and unfeeling person. Yeah, he could get us all killed. Hillary will just be think she'll be better. I mean, I think she'll be better than anybody we've had up till now. But nowhere's near good enough. Nowhere's near me, which is good enough. Oh, well. Look, please go ahead and vote. Otherwise, we're stuck with Trump. Might not make it past a few days with him. I'm not kidding. All right, love you all. Thank you. Please, go and vote tomorrow. Take off work if you have to. Whatever you have to do, just do it. You might not be able to work another day if you don't. All right, love you all. Thank you so much. We'll win this next time. I'm tired of this too. Makes me feel sick. Sick. It's better than death. God almighty, God help us. All right, love you all. Thank you. Bye.